Good evening, everybody. So today, literally, because I wrote a story about Pan, saying that Pan is always running late. So today, we really ran late because there were a few glitches, but the story of Pan begins with Pan is always running late. So literally, we run late today. Even to play with his friends have to wait at the gate. He misses the school bus and his friends wonder, why cannot Pan be like us? Pan's mom, we all know that, right? That Pan's mom is a teacher and she jots everything down. She's always on time and never ever can you see her frown. She plans and follows the plan each day. Time is precious, Pan. That's what she says. Time is precious and you have to treat it that way. Managing time is an art and it's never too late to start. It's a valuable resource, you know. It cannot be saved, so it has to be leveraged for sure. It has only one way to flow, and when it goes, it just goes. Supply is fixed and the demand always exceeds the supply. Everyone knows. So Pan is beginning to understand that time is so important. And if you're well planned, it doesn't matter. There will be glitches, there will be things that will go wrong, there will be problems that will come, there will be, something that is unplanned that happens. But if you have respected your time, if you have planned your resources, if you just kept yourself in control of what you can control, then time management works beautifully, whether in class or anywhere else in life. And I feel that today was actually a test of that. That, how could we manage ourselves when there was a little turbulence? Have we got perturbed? Have we realized that, yes, within this time, we can manage to project what we had planned? Yes. Because this was, I think sometimes, when we want to keep talking to people, life has a way of testing you and saying, oh, let's see if you can manage it now. So that's what we are going to try and do. So 3 distinct or maybe 4 distinct type of people around us in classrooms or otherwise. Even our poster is so beautifully made with one very calm teacher around the children smiling and talking, and one teacher with loads of things hassle pulling her children. So these 2 people have exactly the same time allotment. Yet one manages the time beautifully and one just cannot manage the time. So a few distinct type of people, all of us see these people all around us. One are super organized people. They will be busiest, but they will be on time for everything. Of course, unless something really goes wrong, they're always there. They're extremely organized people. Then you have the very disorganized people who just are all over the place. And the third is the don't care. They are all over the place and they don't care. Then the fourth very interesting type of people are people like most of us who care but don't know what to do about it. Many of us feel upset if we don't follow a schedule or we've not reached on time, but we don't know what to do about it. So the first 3 things to remember about people who manage time well is that they become more effective. Anybody who manages within whatever time is available, that person is more effective, and the effort the person puts into something seems lesser than the others, right? The person is very efficient. The person is productive. Every time you see some kind of people, you say that, my God, they're so proactive. They will always come back to you. They're so productive. Within the same time, the other person will not be able to do something and this person pulls off the job. So the person becomes productive. And it's effortless. It seems like a seamless thing, So anybody who respects and manages their time seems to make the work, the efficiency, the effectiveness look effortless. So these are good reasons to, follow time. And I said, today I must wear my watch for the session too. We've stopped looking at our watch because we're so used to the phone. But I think a watch is still such a precious, thing to tell us the. So for me, if I say time and I just say these 4 letters, I would say total involvement, mindfulness, and enjoyment. I have to be totally involved. I have to be mindful, and I have to enjoy every minute of the second, of the minute, of the day, of the week, of the month, of the year, and perhaps the decade. So, our appreciation of what time we are spending on things just goes away because we just don't live in that moment also. So very, very important, very important to. Now there's some myths with time, there's certain things we just feel that, oh, this is happening, so this is not in my control. So my life is controlled by others. I can't help it. Every time I want to do something, somebody else is controlling it. So it's important to recognize your limits, and it's important to control what you can control. You must recognize that this is in my control aspect of my time, and I can control it. So don't live in the myth that somebody else controls your time. Please take control of what you are in control. High expectations. Oh, everybody expects me to do this. Understand and stop inappropriate demands, whether they're coming from family, whether they're coming from heads, and prioritize what needs to be done. So sometimes I remember, I have gone through many, many years of my career. This is the second year of working. You'll find a head in school who look at you and say, this needs to be done. So I would smile and say, why don't you demonstrate it for us? Please tell me how I can do this with 3-year-old, 4-year-olds, and 5-year-olds. I would be very happy to adapt to it. And then when the person, if they could do it, then I would learn it. If they couldn't do it, I would smile at them and say, ma'am, it doesn't work like this with little children. So yes, I know it's a difficult thing to do, but it's very important to stop inappropriate demands. Like, I'll give you a small example of a classroom. You settle your children down beautifully. You settle them down. You give them all the resources. You talk to them, and suddenly somebody walks into the room and says, your children need to wish me. So my entire planning of that 10 minutes of settling, transition just goes because somebody walks into my classroom and does not respect the time of my children. So very clearly, I left out instructions that whoever has to meet me has to call me out. If you have to visit my class, you have to inform me, because my children's time is precious. My time of organizing my children is precious. So don't walk into an early years classroom after it's settled and my children are concentrating and working. Kindly wait outside or leave a note for me. I'll come back and meet you. Initially, I was young. I did this when I was about 24, 25. And I remember the kind of shock people went into, but nobody walked into my class. Nobody. People would just not walk into my class without respecting the time that I had put into the children. So it's very important to stop unreasonable demands in your classrooms. It works beautifully. I have to work really hard. I should not set limits. Well, no. Every human has limits. So please recognize your limits and test them. Do your best, but don't run after perfection. Between your best and perfection, the amount of time you will take will be much more. So in a classroom management, do your best, but don't expect perfection. It really becomes difficult for you to manage your time within that set of resources, right? So as a classroom time, what all do you have? What all do you have in your, little time bag? So you have the available time, which means you have the number of days, you have the number of hours, and those are what is available to you. That's it. Then you have allocated time. How much time is allocated to each subject? So how can you prioritize it? So when you want allocated time to do well, what should you do? You should keep your resources in place. You should plan extra activities for the children who work faster. You have to identify and take help from the ones who finish. And you have to remember that there is going to be a certain amount of disruption. So allocation time can be optimized by keeping all your resources together, having some extra activities ready, identifying children who work really fast and allocating peer learning, and it works really well. Then you have engaged time. Engaged time is time where the child is not just listening to you, but the child is actually involved in a process, a writing, a reading, a drawing, not the distribution, not the collection, but a main process. So always understand that in a classroom, that is what is going to be a very important part, is the engagement time of children. Not just what you're speaking, but what they're engaging in. So if you just keep it in your mind, I think organizing our classes would become that much easier. Then you have the academic learning time, where the learner is actually showing you signs of what the child has learned and is applying it. So one is the engagement time, when the child is actually physically doing an activity. Then the academic learning time could be a part of the observation, practice, and assessment, where the child is proving to you whether this engagement time has worked or not. Just be conscious about it. Pacing curriculum, how fast or slow the curriculum should go. That's a part of important time management in any classroom. And most important is the transition time, which is never ever calculated. We calculate curriculum, year, days, number of working days, number of hours, but we don't calculate transition time. And in early years and foundation, transition time is a very, very critical part of the design, because to move the children from one area of concentration to completely another area of concentration, different topics, different settings, it takes an effort. All of us know as early as teachers, it's not like that. You click your fingers and your 30 children change. No, they don't. You have to settle them back. You have to explain to them. So when you're designing your classroom time, please calculate your transition time. It's mandatory to do that. If your transition is not smooth, how will you will find restless children. You will have certain children who get cranky. You will have certain children who get a little violent. You will have certain children who will just lose interest. So to keep them all bound together, we need to have a very, very clear idea of our transition time. It's a very important aspect of time and classroom management. Self-reflection. I think when we are managing our lives, our classrooms, our these days I see a lot of mails that come, that says that this mail is being sent to you outside your office working hours, but we respect your hours so you can respond as and when you want to. I mean, yes, but what is the first pressure on your head? You respond, right? So that personal time that the mail said that it respects, you have overridden it and you say, no, now that I have got the mail. See, that person is working at that point of time, sending you a perfect note. So you respond at a time when it is a little more reasonable for the family. When we talked about classroom management, I'm doing that. But at this point of time, I also feel the home management, the whole, we are seeing so much of stress in teachers because the work is not ending. We are just not ending a day. Earlier, we used to finish our work and we used to come back home. Today, that's not happening, and that's not a good sign for the teaching community. If anything is not a good sign for the teaching community, it's not good for the children, right? So this is something which you must be conscious about. Take that time off, switch off your systems and say, okay, I'm done for the day and I will now work in tomorrow. It works. Believe me, it works. If you're planned, it works. A few self-reflections to make it a little better. What are your job expectations? You have to ask your heads that. How fast do you expect me to respond? I mean, it's not a very flexible discussion. What are the success benchmarks? Suppose you say, oh, this is a successful teacher. What is the benchmark in your organization? Does it mean that I have to answer mails at 10 in the night, 12 in the night, 5 in the morning? Or is my benchmark my efficiency of how I plan and implement my day. What are the parameters of exceptional performance? So very clearly, this is also for the heads who are talking about time, and especially in this particular time when things are so difficult. What are your parameters of exceptional performance? So please lay this out. These are your job expectations. These are your success benchmarks. These are your benchmarks for exceptional performance. What are your deadlines? If I say a deadline, what does it mean? Does it mean that if I give it to you today, I want it in the next 2 hours? Or does it mean 24 hours? How is your work? How is the work you're allotting to X, Y, and Z connected to the performance of the others? Now, you very easily tell people, especially in these times, oh, I need this by tomorrow. But by tomorrow, this person may have to collect data from 3, 7, 20 different people. So, are you taking that in mind? That this person is going to depend on that many resources? It's very important, because in today's times, you're not walking over to each other's tables, right? So while we're talking of classroom management, I also will say we have to manage our time in the present circumstances as well. The SWOT analysis. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the opportunities and what are the threats? Very clearly identify them. Work on your strengths, make them stronger. Recognize your weaknesses, side along, work with them. Grab the opportunities and face the threats in a very clear manner. That's how the time. Otherwise, when you say the SWOT analysis, it could mean for anything. It could mean that I need to understand my strength, my weakness, my opportunities, and my threats. What do I do with the threats? I have to deal with them. If I don't deal with them, they will continue to eat into my time. They will continue to become my time wasters. I will procrastinate. I will get irritable. I will not be able to perform the way I want to. And I will just go on and on and on. So that is something which I would recommend very, very strongly, that please deal with the threats, the things that are making you uncomfortable. Talk about them, express them. It helps you to manage your time, and what it helps you to manage is your mind restfulness time. I don't know, as teachers, how much of emphasis do organizations, systems, heads place on the peace of mind of a teacher? Do we really care about it? Do we acknowledge it? Do we understand that they are, challenges? I think it's a very, very important part of time management to acknowledge the fact that they are going to be problem areas for teachers. And that's how it works like that, right? So how do you manage your time now? Now we've decided that we need to, go step by step. So how should you manage your time? The one thing very, very important to do is to in any circumstances, whether it's the classroom or the present circumstances at home, allot a place for everything and put everything back in the place all the time. You know how much of time gets wasted looking for resources, whether it's in a classroom, whether it is, at home, because it's a different environment you're working in today. So please allot a place for everything, and under every circumstance, put the thing back in the place. It works very, very well. Clear and precise to-do lists. You have to have the short-term to-do lists very clearly, that tomorrow I need to do these 3 things. So that goes into your planning. You have your weekly and your monthly planning. That is a long term. But what is critical for a day-to-day working is your precision of your to-do planning for the day. It's very important. What is more important is to carry forward what could not be done. Don't just leave it over there in this to-do list. If you could not do it today, carry it forward to the next day's to-do list, so that you know that this also has to be done and this also has to be done. Otherwise, imagine at the end of your week planning, where are you going to be? You have not carried over anything and you're lagging behind. So what are you going to do suddenly at the end of the week? So please not only make a to-do list every day, but carry forward what you can't. Most important, acknowledge that sometimes when you plan, you may not be able to do the whole thing. So be a little flexible in your own mind. Always have a logical reasoning to why this time allotted could not be fulfilled. Put a small note next to it so that when the head is talking to you, you don't falter and say, oh my God, I didn't finish. Give a sensible reasoning to why it could not happen. And I have been a teacher for many, many years. If I could give a sensible reasoning, very few impractical heads are there who just don't listen to you. Many of them have gone through your own cycle, like from the teacher, they become to coordinators and then heads. So many times, if you give them the logical explanation of why something could not be completed in a particular time, they will respect it. Sometimes they can just come up with fabulous suggestions. But if you falter and say, I don't know why it happened, then it becomes an irritant. So please remember, try and do that. Have buffers. We don't plan buffers. What if it doesn't work out? So the buffer planning is very, very important. And another absolutely critical thing is recognize your daily time wasters. You have a list of time wasters in your life. Time wasters could be anything. It could be continuous checking of your Facebook. It could be continuous WhatsApping. It could be phone calls which are irrelevant. It could be just any part. I mean, it could be different things for different people. Obviously, everybody will not have the same time basis. But if you're falling short of time and others are not, sit down and breathe and say, why is this happening? This was my priority. Did I do this first? So many times when I work with multifaceted things. And I personally am not a super organized person, And so I used to actually falter. And then I said, no, let me get into my life into a system. Let me just decide that this is what I have to do today and I stick by it. So I have loads of resources, you'll notice. I have just started putting everything back in the place. That's it. I avoid all time wasters. There'll be certain days where I just don't get time. And I sit down and think, what did I do today that went wrong in my day, And certain days I can fit in so much because I have recognized my time wasters. So please recognize the time wasters. It's a very, very important skill to have. Another very important thing about classroom time management is how do you train your environment and children? So do you teach them about classroom settings? Do you inform them that this activity is going to be taking you about 10 to 12 minutes and then ma'am is going to ring a bell for you or I'm going to clap my hands? Do you talk to them about the small group developer activity, about the pair activity, about the large group activity? Have you explained the working settings to your children? That's a very important part of time management in a classroom because everything, if it is dependent only on the teacher, then you have to make the children do it. So for managing your time, I would say why classroom, even your home management, you have to involve the members of the house like that. You have to involve the little children, even a 3-year-old acknowledges time. You have to tell them, it's time for this, it's time for that, it's time for this, it's time. Don't force them. Don't say, jaldi karo, jaldi karo, jaldi karo. But very nicely, you can actually say, okay, children, another 2 minutes to go. So give them a pre-warning. And the time's up now. Can we all wind up? So just right from the beginning, in a very gentle manner. Another beautiful thing to do is have a big clock which you can move, like one of those manipulating clocks around where you can move the hands of the clock. And you tell them that when it comes to this, we have to finish this activity. It's so easy to say, let the children keep doing what they have to. It doesn't work like that, no? You have to finish a certain amount of things in a day. So these few things have helped me. I remember I could just I have never not managed activity-based learning. Imagine for years of my life, after the traditional curriculum, I would still have time for activities. And then slowly that became the priority. So if I had to manage things, I had to just plan beautifully, and I had to involve my children. So I think if you do that consciously, it works really well. Another really nice thing is to watch people who manage their time well. Like even in my environment where I work, I will find certain people who, at a very senior level, also will always be on time for a meeting. They will always inform you if they can't come. There is always a proactivity, informing, asking, and their same environment, you will find very, very young people, or even the middle rung people, who will just say we have no time, absolutely no time. They will not respond, they will not land up on time, they will be very forceful in their. So what makes these two people distinctively different? That other person has maybe more commitments, more work, more meetings, yet that person is on time on every meeting. That means the person acknowledges that my time is as valuable as yours. So when you talk about time management, it also means I have to acknowledge that that person's time is valuable also, however junior, however senior. And I think that's a very important part of your classroom management, to be able to, respect the fact that time has to be. And if we teach this early to children, early on in life, if they actually learn how to value the time, they time small activities, they time little things that they do, it becomes an ingrained habit. And it's a good habit to have. It's a lovely habit to have, to be respectful of time. So I remember this, beautiful saying that somebody had told me as I grew. There was this person who mentored me, Mr. Murthy, many, many years of my life. And he told me something so beautiful. He said, I will mentor you if you learn to flow like water and time. Okay? So once it goes ahead, it never comes back. You should have the ability to flow and optimize. Like water, you have to flow smoothly, and like time, you have to use every minute that you have. Only then will I mentor you. And I think it makes so much sense today. That time you just say yes, yes, and you just finish it up. But flowing like water means once it starts from its source, it doesn't go back to the source. It goes ahead to the sea or to a river or to a stream. Like that, time never will come back. What you have to do today, you have to do today. You can't be doing it tomorrow and day after and just putting it off and putting it off. So it just makes a big difference, to value that time. So there's this beautiful thing that Ahmed Faiz said, कि जो करना है सो कर जाओ, जो होना है सो हो जाएगा, जो करना है सो कर जाओ, जो होना है सो हो जाओ, जिस वक्त में तुम जिंदा हो वो वक्त तुमसे जिंदा है. Right? So the minute that you're living in is alive because you are living that minute. So make it come alive. Use that time to self-reflect, to grow, to plan, and learn how to say, this can't be done now. Right? It's so important to be able to get that going. So thank you so very much. I tried to, compress our thoughts into the time that we had today. And I hope that I've been able to convey and, put across a few points which are going to be relevant and help you to plan beautiful classrooms. So all you need to do is keep connecting the links. Think of your timing, planning, optimizing, leveraging, being very effective, and grow your classrooms and your life beautifully. Thank you so very much. Next week, we hope to be having a very, very interesting person with us. And I will let it be a surprise. And I'm sure Sejal will, send out our creatives for you, and you'll be able to make out who's coming. It's going to be a very interesting person. And what is beautiful is that these people are actually now coming and wanting to be onto our platform to, share their thoughts with us. So yes, and we are also trying to bring in some of the team leaders from the Square Panda team. As and when they have time, they keep joining us and sharing their thoughts with us. So thank you so much. Have a beautiful time. Enjoy every minute, every second, every day, every week, every month, and the whole year. Thank you so much.
Square Panda.